Pleased to be at the head office of Cakebox. Cakebox has become a national brand in the UK selling eggless cakes. Today we're going to listen to the story of Sukh, who started the company from one store in Ilford all the way across to what it is today. Really pleased to be here, and we're going to get into the details of how he's taken this idea of eggless cakes in the UK to what it is today. Join me as we go into detail with Sukh on his journey and how the eggless cake market has been changed in the UK with Cakebox. Sukh, great to meet you again.
Good afternoon. Same.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
It's been a couple of years. Things have changed for Cakebox.
Time flies.
Well, I think today was really to hear more about your story. It's been an interesting story. It's been an interesting journey. You've kind of been through it right from the start, from East London, starting out in an Indian sweet shop. It would be good to hear a bit more about that aspect of the childhood aspect of your growing up phase within East London that carved you into then wanting to go on the entrepreneurial journey yourself.
Absolutely. See, Dad came here with £1 in his pocket on a voucher scheme in 1962. So he came here, he was a qualified bricklayer. So he's come here, he's landed from his hometown into a foreign country where no one knows him. He went out in the street the day he arrived and he goes to the first building site, me bricklayer, need job. And they gave him a job. And then Dad went on to develop this sideline and opened the shop in 74. So he was doing bricklaying on the side and doing the shop. And as the shop became more successful, he went into that full time. And while my friends on a Saturday morning were playing football, I was there rolling samosas.
And how was this for you? How was the experience?
But that was, that was...
How old were you then?
I was 11 then. And so that was part of the family together, putting all the efforts in because we couldn't afford staff.
So rolling samosas at the age of 11?
Correct, and I'm an expert roller. I
Still can do it?
I can fill the samosa more faster than anybody else.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so it went on from there. And as we grew up, as the demand grew, we were doing the education as well. I wasn't academically gifted, and so this physical experiences is what built me. I could do it myself, and as the years went on, my view was always that the son should outshine the father, and Dad has come from nowhere to build his career and a shop and buy a house and buy a business, all from nothing, while we had the privileges of a government-backed education, government-backed health service, etc. So we've had it a lot easier than they had. And that, and I was always look for opportunities, because Father always said, look, listen, learn. Because you don't want to reinvent the wheel, you just want to do something and make it better. So that philosophy was into the Indian sweet market, and opportunity came up where we could obtain buffalo milk instead of cow's milk. And because in India everybody drinks buffalo milk. It's a much healthier milk, even though it's higher in fat, but it's more protein, more calcium, less cholesterol. And so once we got that milk, we could replicate the burfi that we had in India. And that was a cornerstone of our business. That was what we were famous for. Nobody could replicate it, and we ran the business on that particular recipe. But being Dad, being from India, being from the village, they could never let go. That control, they could never let or envisage growing and get to the next step, because they'd come from virtually nothing to this, and to them, this was enough. It's satisfactory, you had enough income coming in, or you're working hard, you're keeping busy, and to them, they'd reached the pinnacle of their thinking. But myself being younger, myself having a different mentality, was that we should grow. And Dad's philosophy was, why? We've got enough, it's enough, you don't need any more. And so when our next door shop came vacant, we bought that. I saw the opportunity. I had a customer come in. We were doing catering at that time.
You were full-time in the business with your father?
Yes, full-time. And my brother, he went on another path. So I was there full time developing this business. Saw the opportunity, opened the cake shop in that particular shop next door.
So you bought the shop next door to the
That's right, the
to your
existing
father's
shop. That's
sweet
right.
shop.
Yeah, so we had that shop for a long time, but it was rented out. And when the tenant left, we had a vacant plot. I saw an opportunity and I opened this shop. And that proved really successful. And customers coming in saying, look, we need this. Can you open another branch?
What was the thought behind a cake shop in the first stage?
So the first instant it was actually a coincidence. A customer had come in at the same time as my daughter, because my whole family was vegetarian. And egg is considered meat in the subcontinent. And my daughter, when she became self-aware, she said, Dad, I don't want a cake with meat in it. And so I had to look out for an eggless cake. I was advised there was a shop in Ilford. I went there and that shop was so busy. I was so impressed with that. I thought we could do something.
You seen a market?
I saw a market. I talked to the owner. The owner was interested in opening up other branches and everything. And then the opportunity arose where there was a food seminar. I went to this food seminar, and this is the dying days of the Labour government, and they were giving out a lot of grants.
When was this?
This was back in 2017. Oh no, sorry, 2007. So I went to this seminar, met this food scientist, and I said, look, I want an eggless cake recipe. She said, not a problem, there's a scheme going on, and we can get you funding. So we got funding of £20,000 with the South Bank University. And she, in 6 weeks, or with me time matching the grant, came up with a recipe.
For your first type of eggless cake?
So I went home, and as every Indian would know, opened up the oven, and it's all got all our pots and pans in it, because we don't use ovens.
As it is.
Yeah. I emptied the oven, done the recipe, came out perfect. It was so simple, or for the way she had constructed it. So
with no egg.
With no egg. So I thought, we've got the shop next door, it's empty, might as well try the experiment. Because what have I got to lose? Because if it doesn't work, we'll put something else in.
By this stage, it was one SKU, one type of cake.
That's right, just one cake, one sponge, or one chocolate, that's it. And so I started it, and it became so successful, customers were asking, can you open a branch? But at that time, it was very cash heavy. So 80% cash coming in, 10-15% card coming in, or the rest in credit. So we was very reluctant because the option of theft. Then someone said to me, why don't you franchise it? I didn't know what a franchise was. And
this was still your first store?
First store. And then,
how long had this been running before the franchise model came into
this was just 6-7 months.
Unbelievable, because I've not heard of people being able to actually even develop a franchise model that early into their journey.
So what happened was, we got a letter through, do you want to franchise your business? And
wow.
I thought, it's a franchise show. So off I went, and I met the consultant, and he goes, you've got 4 minutes to pitch your idea. 20 minutes later, we're still talking. And he went and talked to his boss, and he made me part of his speech, or keynote speech. And he goes, I think you've got a very good idea here. It's going to work. You need to prove it. So you need to open another branch. And again, as they say, bricks tend to come together and the house starts getting built. My brother-in-law was just made redundant and he had a little bit of money on him. And I said to him, look, how about you open a branch? And yes, fair enough, I want to go into business. So he opened a branch. I thought, if he can open it, anybody can open it. So he opened it.
But did you have to support with the processes, procedures, the recipe and everything?
That's correct. So these consultants, they gave us a 6 weeks course on how to build a franchise.
So you learned that yourself?
How to run it. So we paid the money and we learned the thing. My cousin, he was made redundant at the same time, and he was an accountant. So that's his speciality. And they said, there's a fee for working out if it's viable or not financially. He goes, I'll do that for you. So he done that for me, saved me £4,000. We went on the course together, and he goes, look, this looks really interesting. I would like to join you. And so that was part of it. who became my financial director.
But you come from a very entrepreneurial family. This
Of
is
course.
What you're telling me.
And so we joined hands and we opened the first franchise. And it was so fortunate that we've never had to pitch for new franchisees. My second franchisee walked into the store, 19-year-old boy, saying, I'm fed up of working, I want to go into business. Can you teach me how to bake cakes? I said, we can sell you a franchise. He's okay. He's still with me 15 years later, and he's got 4 branches now.
So you have a compelling model for
And then the
franchisees.
third and the fourth all franchises exactly the same. It was all word of mouth. And as you know, us Asians, if something's good, we all do it. And so they've spread the word out to their family and friends. In fact, I've got one set of franchisees who's about 10 cousins, and they've all got a store each.
But the interesting part of this is whenever anyone's looking at a franchise, because there's many franchises available, right? You go to the franchise,
Correct.
there's so many available. You've got to really be able to pinpoint, okay, what's the one, for any startup, it's about what's the one that's got the lowest entry point from a cost perspective,
Correct.
what's the one that's going to give me maximum output from a cash flow perspective, and actually how much work is involved. So if you look at some of the ones in retail, they're very labor intensive.
Correct.
If you look at some of the the food and drink ones, they're very you need a lot of cash flow up front to get in there. What was it about Cakebox that was different?
So we had a very, very simple model. We done all the baking at head office. We provided you everything in your delivery, so you do not have to leave your store. All the processes were very simple, so a unskilled person can come in, learn the processes, and by the end of the day, they're a proficient cake maker. So we provided them with all the tools to assemble a cake, decorations, etc. We set a very low entry point, but we set a very high margin. So the franchisee was going to do all the work. The franchisee was the face of the business. The franchisee was where the sales were going to be generated. So it only made sense to give them a lot more percentage than we got. So it used to be 63-37. And that's where a lot of franchise models go wrong, because the franchisor
It's the other way around.
wants to get a lot more than the franchisee, which we don't consider is not correct, because they're the ones doing all the work. And the model worked really well. Skill levels weren't needed. All the management or skills, all the running of the shop, all the processes we developed. One of the pioneers in Green Street, we were one of the first 5 shops, was my colleague Dr. Singh, and he was a qualified doctor, but he had set up a clothing business which was very successful in Green Street, and we had lost touch. And then my mother had a knee replacement, his nephew had a knee replacement. We met again in hospital, got to know each other again. It was really interesting talking about what he'd done and what I was doing. And since he's done so many businesses, been around the world, I was constantly going to him for advice. And eventually I asked him to join us. And he joined us a few years later, and he got one of the most successful, we gave him a store, and that was one of the most successful stores. And from that, he developed all the processes that we required and automation in the bakery. And so we made a really simple business, very easy to understand. What do we sell? Cakes. Don't complicate it. We only sell cakes. We don't sell samosas. We don't sell pakoras. We don't sell anything, tea and coffee. So get that brand into people's name, a trustworthy name, and by removing the one ingredient, the egg, we got the Sikhs and the Hindus. It became halal by default because we didn't use any alcohol or any animal product, which is banned in Islam. And the indigenous population just loved the taste. And I, on purpose, introduced fresh cream, unadulterated, not sweetened, brought that back to the high street after it been vanishing from the high street for 25 years. And the second thing I wanted to do was, we were busy people. And so it became the Amazon of the cake business. We wanted to fit in with your lifestyle. So who's got time to plan 3 days ahead or a week ahead? Because we never were able to get a cake unless you get 3 days notice. And here you could walk into my shop, selection of cakes, personalized on the spot. So if you've forgotten, you could come in. Valentine's Day is always so big for us because they forget, they're coming, of course I planned this. buy the cake, I love you, and take it. And click and collect in an hour. Order online at your desk, come and pick it up. Get it delivered, we do that as well. And so we fit in with your rules. That's how Amazon is so successful, because you can order at any time, it'll be delivered to you, or you collect it from a point, your convenience. So by giving that convenience, we created markets.
Well, what I'm hearing the most here is you started out from the Indian sweet shop, had the cake shop, which was your starting point, went out, found some grant investment, found an expert to try and support you with your first type of recipe, scaled that up, got your brother-in-law involved. But the thing I heard there most recently was also you found someone that would be a key brand ambassador to help put the processes and procedures in place.
Correct.
Because that's really important for anyone listening here. The aspect of that initial supplier, customer that is going to be your kind of support in telling you what works, what doesn't work, and how you can scale and leverage that. And it was really important for you to probably learn and listen to that as well.
Absolutely, it's a team. You need your team. And what my father always used to say, you're not an expert in everything, so go and get the expert. You may not be the smartest person in the room, make sure the people there are smarter than you. Right? And your job is to get them to all work together. And by working together, that's where your business goes up. So never worry about your qualifications, never worry about your education. It's your skill set in gelling everything together and then making that a success.
Going from a family business with your father to actually then setting out on your own in some ways, how was that experience for you, and how was that also for your father as well, allowing you to go on that journey on your own?
So once this took off, of course, I didn't have enough time for the sweet shop. And at the same time, my dad being diabetic, he lost a leg. And he lost a leg and he recovered. And once he came out of hospital, Diwali was near. And at that time, I had shut the mithai shop. He's in his wheelchair. He goes in the shop, he sets up a table, gets my shelf to make some mithai, puts it in the shop and starts selling it, or in it from his wheelchair. And he goes, do whatever you like, but don't let my legacy die. Right? So what I done, I went out and bought with my co-partner another herd of buffaloes, which are based in Leamington Spa. We milked them and we make a burfi in Dad's name. And that burfi we still sell to this day in all the shops with his story on the tin. And so that his legacy wouldn't be forgotten. And it's so important to keep that legacy alive, because that's where we started and that's where we continued. And so that legacy again instilled share with who's brought you to where you are. And that was the main reason for us to go into the share market, to list, because that was the vehicle where we could share the company with the staff, with the franchisees, with the suppliers. And so when we listed, everybody had a chance to become a shareholder in the company. And what you found, even my drivers, my hygiene team, they all bought shares because they were proud of the company. And this enabled us.
You built a real family
Absolutely,
connection
and we
across the
still
board.
do that same thing. We consider ourselves a family, even at this now. If you're going to any of our stores, if you come and see the head office, it's all a family atmosphere. And everybody, we gave a discount on the list price to everybody who bought pre-list. And so it gave them a chance, and straight after the list, sales went up because everybody felt it was their company.
Part of something.
Correct. And we've got people who bought shares back in 2018. Our staff has still got them because they're still proud of what has been achieved. And we've got very low staff turnover. We've got very loyal staff, and it just shows because of the way we treat them. We provide them private healthcare. We provide them fresh fruit every week. We provide them all subsidised lunches so they can get a hot meal every day at a very good price. We provide them death in service. Or so we try and look after the staff as much as possible, because by giving them, they give back.
But what I'm trying to really understand here, so you've gone from taking £20,000 to opening up a franchise model. You probably didn't need any external funding at this point.
No.
Your first external funding, correct me if I'm understanding this correctly, was at the point of the listing.
Correct.
I have not heard of many businesses that have gone through their journey where they've not had to raise external funding up until that point. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I said that it was all organic. Or franchisees came to us because they heard about it. They were impressed with the product. They were impressed with the processes, and they enjoyed working with us. Everybody, including staff, franchisee, has got my phone number. They can phone me 24/7 or any of my senior team, and they can contact them anytime. And that's the accessibility, the family motto. And as you know, in Asians, or family is very, very strong. And we've continued that tradition right up to now.
It's pretty incredible hearing that. But how did you get to the learnings of, I now have an opportunity to list this, and what does that mean, and what is that going to do to me? Because at that point, you're bringing in external shareholders, you're potentially putting yourself in a different position in the company from what ownership you had before. What was the thought process behind that?
So we got to a point, we've grew it to as much as we could, and then we needed external help. And so by listing, you got a board, and board has got such a variety of experience. And so the advice coming from them, the advice coming from investors, the advice coming from shareholders, and that all gelled together enable us to continue to grow more. And by being part of the company, by being part invested in it, the advice was going to give was always going to be correct.
How was the listing experience for you?
Yeah, and we thought it was very intense. You know, every comma, full stop had to be verified. Anything we said, can you verify it? And that was an eye-opener. So everything we said, we had to make sure it was true. And it was a very intense experience, but very rewarding experience. And it showed a new aspect of governance, or of cooperation, and it was very rewarding. And we were oversubscribed by 2.5 times. So
how much did you raise on the market?
So we raised 40 million, or 40 million shares at £1.8, and it was and it just showed the confidence that the market had in us, that we had a very sustainable company business model, which was a benefit of growth, and we've been growing ever since we started.
But let's talk a little bit about you then. How was that feeling for you though, as a person, someone that from the age of 11 had been growing up in an Indian sweet shop, to taking a chance on then potentially opening a cake shop, to seeing this project he's been working on now on the main public market?
The defining time came is when I handed the keys to my first Rolls Royce to my dad and said, right, this is your car.
How did that feel?
And that all gave vindication to my father that, son, you can do something. Because as you know, Asian fathers are very reluctant to give you that approval. And that was the defining moment in my career where we said, look, Dad, I've made it.
At that moment, you must have thought you made it.
And he accepted it, that you've made it.
How was that feeling for you?
Yeah, that was like nothing else.
One of the proudest moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, incredible. Tell me a little bit about the aspect of, one thing that I do find, I think it's more in Asian families, is the family business aspect. But at some point, the growth stops, or the way of thinking of the business changes as well. I think what you've taught everyone here is actually, you can take that, you can apply your own thought process behind that. You can scale it, but give people still the independence to do what they want with how they apply that knowledge.
Well, a prime example in COVID, one of the shops, every single member of the staff contracted COVID. So they had to close the shop. But when the other franchisees heard that they had to shut, what they done was they came together, they provided a member of staff each, and they kept that shop open. And at no charge to that franchisee, They wanted to make sure that the group operated, and that shows that family ethos that we're not here just for ourselves, we're here with everybody else. So even now, if a shop runs out of a particular stock, a sponge or a jam or anything, they just go to the nearest store and borrow it, and then they give it back. And so by building that family ethos, by building that support network, all of our franchisees, all our workers know that they're all in together, and that makes growth so much easier. And they've got the independence, or they run their shops, but they also got a family atmosphere where if they need something, they can get it.
Coming from humble beginnings of watching your father come here, try and get started, bring the rest of the family over, to what you have today and what you've developed and built, how has life changed for you in that perspective of how you now operate your own work aspects as well?
Absolutely. So I've come from nothing to what we're here. We used to live in six of us in a two-bedroom or above the shop for so many years. Now I've got my own house, etc. I've got what I've always wanted, the bigger cars and blah. So I've got those as well. But when I was younger, no one ever offered me a ride in anybody's car. Nobody ever offered me, can I have it? I offer all my franchisees, all my workers, if they need a car for a special occasion or whatever, they have it. They can have mine. All right? And it's the ability to do that. And so my father said, now son, you got enough here, give back.
Give back.
So what we done in our village, we converted one of our properties into a dispensary. So 10 villages around our village, we offer a free doctor, free diagnosis, free medicine. So anybody can walk in and get diagnosed, tested, and medicine for no charge.
Brilliant.
Then once a year we do an eye camp. So, or we in conjunction with the local hospital, we set up a camp. At the last one, we had 252 people turn up, and 87 of them needed operations, which were done on the same day. All right, 2 were serious, which we paid extra for, and or that enabled us to give the gift of sight back to people who had cataracts, who had problems with their sight.
Brilliant.
And that dispensary still runs today. We still try to do the eye camp as and when it's needed. And so that's giving a bit back. We run a hot food kitchen back in Newham in conjunction with the local church. So that's every Tuesday in the winter months. So I used to do the cooking, but now we've done a conjunction with a little pizza shop.
I'll come for the samosas if they're there.
Yes. And the franchisees, they sponsor the local youth football teams, cricket teams, etc. Yeah, so we encourage that, engage with the community, and you're privileged, try and give something back. We support the local food banks. Every year we give to local charities. So for example, we had one of our secretaries, she died of cancer, so we supported her local hospice. And there's another charity which helps out in giving white goods to people. So if they need a washing machine, they help them out there, so we support them as well. We support as much as possible. So if you've got the ability, give back. And that's what we try to do.
I think, Sukh, what you've done is just incredible. I've seen many people try to create a franchise concept and totally failed. I've seen many people try to scale too quickly and failed. The way you've done it, the effort gone in, the team structure you've developed, the ethos behind what you do is something that is really commendable. For entrepreneurs or young graduates out there today that are looking to start out or are scaling up, what would be your advice?
SSS. Steady, sensible, sustainable. And that's the key to it. Don't go too fast. Make sure it's sensible and make sure you can sustain it. So that's what we do here. We try not to open more than 20, 22 shops a year because that affects the whole supply chain. The baking, the transport, the setup, the training, etc. I could open 50 stores, right? But I'm setting up myself for failure. So by doing it steadily, make sure it's very sensible and make sure there's sustainability in it. And that is the key. So don't rush, it'll come. And you've got to pace yourself. And if you have the ability to go faster, do so. If you haven't got the ability, slow down. And because in the longer term, by going slow and steady, you build a sustainable business which you can support and self-support itself.
The one question that I'd really like to put to you, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about this, is failure in business. We try a lot of things, and it's not a straight line curve. You have to try one thing, then you have to try again. Correct. And again until you find that right format. It's not spoken about enough, but it definitely makes you what you end up becoming. Would you have anything to say to that side for people?
That's right. My father said you can't learn to walk until you fall down. Right? And so in America, it's cherished. Failure is not a failure, it's a reward, it's a learning curve. And that's what we've got to get out of here. That if you fail, it's a learning curve. You've learned your mistakes. Don't make those mistakes again. So you're going to have failures, and that shouldn't get you down. That should say that's the building block to your further growth.
Absolutely. Well, you're now sitting with a 70 million market cap company, developed something incredibly sustainable. You have a network of franchisees that are very loyal. What's next for you and Cakebox?
We're number one. We're the biggest dedicated eggless fresh cream cake company in the country, but there's so much more growth to be done. We're not in every suburb yet. We're just about to open up in Northern Ireland in the next few weeks. We've just expanded more in Scotland. We just opened up in Edinburgh. We're about to open up in Aberdeen and in other areas of Scotland as well. Wales is underrepresented, or the southwest is underrepresented. But the next step would be that we would be looking to go abroad as well, because we have a lot of people asking for our products in, say, across the water in France. If Brexit hadn't come, we'd have been there already. And there's other markets, for example, Canada, 675,000 Asians in the Greater Toronto area. Right? There's nearly 5.7 million Indians in America. And so the ultimate dream would be to go to India.
Fantastic.
And
back
I say
to
India,
the roots.
That's right. And the thing in India is the market is there. 50% of the population is under 25. And they don't worry about cost. There's more earning money in India and not enough stuff to buy.
Interesting. I don't know that.
Yeah. And so if you go to Mumbai, right, some areas you're paying 500 rupees for a cup of coffee, where on the street it's 10 rupees. Yeah. Right? So there's so much growth potential, and we've just hit on it, just started on it. And there's other aspects that we haven't. There's other aspects we still haven't done in this country, which we're working on now. And we want to make our cakes available in every nook and cranny. So there's so much more for us to do as well. And I still have the enthusiasm. I still want to grow. It's still my baby, and I think we just become a toddler. I want it to grow up, get married, and have kids.
This is brilliant. Final question from me. So, for anyone out there looking to scale their business through a franchise type of offering, what would be your advice?
Go to a consultant. Get the training. And the second thing is, don't be afraid to knock on doors and ask advice. If you see someone successful, go and talk to them. Because like my dad always said, you'll only get successful if you hang around with successful people. And if you in the company of successful people, look, listen and learn. And you'll only pick up tips and then comply that to your business, and you can only go one way, that's up.
This is fantastic. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.